The collective had conquered 47 species across 12 spiral arms. They had protocols for everything: atmospheric breathers, methane dwellers, hive minds, silicon-based crystalline entities. They did not have a protocol for Earth. Admiral Vasorb stared at the tactical display, his secondary hearts beating faster than they should. The human colony world of New Brisbane had gone dark 6 cycles ago. Standard procedure: send in the purge fleet, sterilize the infection, move on. The collective had dealt with the rot plague before. Biological weapons were crude but effective, and the humans had been getting too aggressive in the outer reaches. What made Vasorb nervous was the signal they'd picked up 3 hours ago. It had been a standard distress beacon, automated, repeating on loop. But the timestamp showed it was sent 2 cycles after New Brisbane's population should have been completely dead. Someone, or something, had activated it. The long-range scanners detected the ships moments later. 17 human vessels, colony transports, mining frigates, 1 battered destroyer, all broadcasting New Brisbane transponders. All heading directly toward the collective staging world at impossible burn rates that should have liquefied any living crew. "They're not decelerating," his tactical officer whispered. The lead transport hit the orbital defense platform at 0.4 C. The kinetic impact vaporized 3 defense stations and created a debris field that shredded 2 collective cruisers. The other 16 ships followed, each one a guided missile crewed by the dead. But some of them had attached boarding pods first. Vasorb watched in horror as the security feeds lit up across the station. The boarding pods had punched through the hull in 12 locations, and what came out wasn't an invasion force. It was a swarm. The humans that poured through his corridors were clearly dead: radiation burns, vacuum exposure, frozen flesh sloughing off bones. They moved in a shambling horde. No formations, no tactics. Just a tide of corpses stumbling forward with single-minded purpose. They fell over each other. They crashed into walls. Some crawled on broken legs. Others dragged themselves forward with shattered arms. But they never stopped coming. "Fire at will," Vasorb ordered. His security forces opened up with plasma rifles. The first volley cut down a dozen zombies. Limbs separated from bodies. Torsos exploded. Heads vaporized. The corpses behind them trampled over the remains and kept coming. "They're not even trying to dodge," his tactical officer shouted. "They're just walking into the fire." And they were. The dead humans showed no fear, no self-preservation. A zombie missing both legs pulled itself forward on its arms. Another, its entire lower jaw shot away, continued shambling ahead. One had been cut in half at the waist, but its upper body still clawed forward, fingers scraping against the deck plating. "How many rounds to stop one?" A security team leader screamed over the comms. "Destroy the brain or sever the spine," the medical officer shouted back. "Anything else, and they'll keep moving." Vasorb watched the feeds in disbelief. The zombies weren't following any strategy. They simply moved toward any living thing they detected and tried to kill it. No planning, no adaptation, pure predatory instinct. But there were so many of them, and they never got tired. A security checkpoint managed to hold for 7 minutes, cutting down wave after wave of the dead. Then their rifles overheated. The zombies closed the distance in seconds, overwhelming the position through sheer numbers. Vasorb watched his people torn apart by rotten hands and broken teeth. "Sir, they're spreading through the station," his tactical officer reported. "They're not targeting anything specific. They're just moving forward, following sound and movement." "Can we seal the sections?" "We tried. They just keep throwing themselves at the doors. The pressure sensors are keeping some open because they register the bodies as people needing evacuation." On one feed, Vasorb watched a dozen zombies mindlessly press against a sealed bulkhead, their bodies crushing together, bones breaking, but never stopping their forward pressure. Eventually, the door's safety mechanism opened to prevent injuries to what it thought were panicking civilians. The horde poured through. Then Vasorb saw something that made his blood run cold. 2 groups of zombies converged on the same corridor from different directions. One group wore the tattered remains of colonial marine uniforms. The other group wore civilian clothes: dock workers, farmers, families. They met in the middle and immediately attacked each other. "What in the void are they doing?" Vasorb demanded. His medical officer pulled up the bioscans. "Sir, the plague killed their consciousness, but human brains are strange. They have neural structures throughout their entire body: the gut, the spine, the brainstem. Basic instincts survive. And one of humanity's strongest instincts is territoriality." On the feed, The two groups of zombies tore into each other with mindless fury. A dead Marine grabbed a civilian zombie and bashed its skull against the wall repeatedly. A farmer in coveralls bit chunk after chunk from a soldier's neck. They clawed, bit, stomped, and crushed each other. No tactics, no reason, just pure animal aggression over space. They're fighting over territory they can't even understand they're defending, the medical officer whispered. The Marines were military. The civilians were colony population. In life, they occupied different spaces. In death, their bodies still recognize other as a threat. The Marines won, simply because they'd been trained to kill and their bodies remembered the motions. 3 of them remained standing, or rather, swaying, in the corridor afterward. One was missing an arm. Another had its throat torn out. The third dragged a shattered leg. They stood there, guarding the intersection. Not with purpose, not with thought, just there, driven by instinct to hold territory they didn't know they were defending. Then they detected movement from the collective security team down the corridor and lurched forward again. All sections report the same phenomenon, the tactical officer said, voice shaking. The dead humans are fighting each other as much as they're fighting us. But there are so many of them, sir. Even with the infighting, they're overwhelming our defenses through sheer numbers. Vasorb pulled up the casualty reports. Over half his crew was dead or missing. The zombies controlled nearly 40% of the station. And they just kept coming, shambling through corridors, following the sound of weapons fire, the vibration of footsteps, the smell of the living. Environmental control is reporting a problem, the technical officer said. The zombies, they're not avoiding hazards. We've entered 3 sections to vacuum. The dead humans just walked into the void. Some of them are floating out there, still moving, still trying to grab onto anything nearby. On the external cameras, Vasorb could see them. Dozens of frozen corpses drifting in space, arms slowly reaching, legs kicking against nothing. Even the void couldn't stop them. They'd float there until they hit something, and then they'd claw at it, trying to tear it apart. Vasorb made the call to abandon station. As escape pods launched in every direction, he watched the security feeds one last time. The zombies weren't pursuing the fleeing collective forces. They were just there, shambling through corridors, standing in spaces they'd cleared. Occasionally, 2 groups would meet and erupt into savage violence, fighting over territory neither side understood. They had no plan, no goal, no thoughts at all. They were just meat puppets driven by the basest instincts. Move forward, attack the other, defend this space, playing out the motions of life with none of its understanding. And that made them so much worse. Because you couldn't negotiate with instinct. You couldn't frighten creatures that didn't fear. You couldn't kill what was already dead. Get me the collective high command, Vasorb ordered as his escape pod cleared the station. Tell them we have a situation. The humans aren't dead. They're undead. And they won't stop. His communications officer looked up, his face pale. Sir, we're receiving transmissions from 17 other collective worlds. Automated distress beacons. Human colony ships on collision courses. All from infected worlds. Vasorb pulled up the strategic map. New Brisbane had been one of 40 human colonies in the target zone. 40 colonies, each with populations in the millions. Each one infected with the rot plague. Each one now filled with mindless corpses that would stumble through space forever, driven by instincts they couldn't comprehend. The collective had protocols for fighting humans. They had no protocols for fighting human bodies that no longer had minds to defeat. Epilogue, intercepted transmission, 15 cycles later. From Collective Central Command. To all sectors. Classification, absolute priority. Effective immediately. All hostilities with humanity are ceased. All occupied human worlds are to be evacuated. Any collective forces encountering undead human assets are to retreat without engagement. Analysis confirms the plague was inadvertently weaponized by human biology. Postmortem. Humans retain deep-seated territorial and aggressive instincts that override the neural death the plague causes. These revenants demonstrate no intelligence, no reasoning, no consciousness. They are driven purely by instinct. Attack the living, defend territory, move forward. The undead are fractured, fighting amongst themselves as much as they fight us. But their sheer numbers, inability to feel pain or fear, and refusal to stop advancing makes them impossible to contain. Entire sectors are now dead zones filled with millions of mindless human corpses, shambling through the wreckage, attacking anything that moves. Furthermore, Intelligence suggests human governments are now deploying volunteer battalions of infected soldiers to contested zones. They seal them in ships, point them at our worlds, and let basic human aggression do the rest. The humans are weaponizing their own dead. The collective cannot win a war of attrition against an enemy that treats death as a recruitment opportunity and treats every square meter of space as worth dying for again. We thought we were fighting humans. We were wrong. We're fighting humanity's base instincts, freed from the limitations of fear, pain, and reason. Peace negotiations with living humans begin immediately. Author's note: the collective learned an important lesson that day. Humanity's most terrifying trait isn't our intelligence, our technology, or our violence. It's that even when you take away our minds, our bodies still remember how to hate. Even death won't stop us from finishing the job.
Many thanks to channel member RJ for making this video possible. And thank you to all my other channel members and Pathfinders as well. You all keep this channel going. If you'd like to become a member, please be sure to do so and gain access to some awesome exclusive perks. Everyone else, thank you for listening to this story, and I do hope that you enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon to see more videos like this. And be sure to leave this video a like, too. Channel memberships, super thanks, merch purchases, and even book purchases, our links to our books are in the description section below, are a great way to keep this channel going. And they help us afford to make better videos too. Partner with us as we grow into one of the best sci-fi channels on YouTube and beyond. With all of that said, thank you again for listening to this story, and I hope to see you again. Thank you for your time, and be sure to check out the story and playlist on the left side of your screen now. I'll see you in the next one.